Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today's comment really, comes from mcbirontransfer.com, and there isn't an email address on this. He says, I'm sure you knew this one. I didn't make sense that the original aircraft telephony used Morse code. Actually, radios onboard aircraft in the 20s and into the 30s used onboard telegraphy. They'd have Morse going up and down, and you'd have to have a radio operator who could take care of it. Those big Pan Am flying boats that went around the Pacific in the interwar period were all carried a telegraph operator. When Amelia Earhart went across the world, she refused to use telegraphy. She wanted phone. The problem, of course, as you know, is that telegraphy or telegraph or Morse, CW, gets through when voice does not. And there's a lot of speculation about what happened to Amelia Earhart, but in fact, a lot of it centers around the radio. Okay, this says area QNH, and it's got a little picture of an airplane here. And it says, aircraft cruising at or below 10,000 feet maintain altitude according to the indication of a pressure-operated altimeter. It's actually 14,000 feet, so it's wrong right there. And it says a subscale of which is to set the forecast area QNH. It's actually not the forecast, it's the measured value. It says the acronym QNH is one of the question codes. No, that's not right. They were just Q codes. They started with an unusual letter, okay, so that radio operators could be a little alert to see the two letters that followed after that. Okay, they were developed circa 1909 for use with the Morse code. And QNH in this case means what should the barometric pressure setting be on my altimeter. This is measured at every airport. And if you listen to the broadcast, it's actually constantly broadcast from every airport. One of the things they cycle through is the barometer setting. Another way you can do this, if you're at an airport and you know your elevation, you can put the elevation in and the barometer reading will be correct. Now, the reason they do this for under 14,000 feet is that everybody is supposed to know the altimeter, the barometric pressure wherever they're flying, and they can get it from quite a few sources. Now, if you're above 14,000 feet, you are all setting it back to 2992 inches of mercury, 29.92 inches of mercury, and then they all kind of fly together. All right, so mean sea level pressure. But what brings this up here is it's interesting. First of all, is that QNH is one of the Q codes. Now, I tried to find my book that has all the Q codes in it, but I couldn't. The Q code was developed and is internationally maintained for currency. The correct form of a Q code is a Q followed by, say, TH. QTH question mark is asking the other operator for his or her location. And then the response will be QTH Ridgeway, Colorado. Okay? Or if you are at sea or in the air, it could be a location. Like, for example, latitude and longitude for ships. For aircraft, it could be a particular point that they are near. The map is littered with little 5-letter names. You can say, well, I'm 5 miles southeast of Quincy or something like that. Okay? Now, first, I want to show you all the Q codes. You can get them on Wikipedia, easy as pie. Okay. By the way, there are also Z codes. The Z codes are used by the Navy, but the Q codes are used internationally. Let's take a look on Wikipedia. What we see here is from Wikipedia. Wikipedia is giving us the Q code here. We're just looking at this. Now, as we go down here, it's got a little bit of the history of it, and it was a list of abbreviations prepared for the use of British ships and coast stations licensed by the Postmaster General. Okay, there's nothing in there about it being a question code. It's just a Q. These are the first 12 that were listed in the original 1912 regulations. Let's take a look at what they are now. Okay, breakdown by service. QAA to QNZ are assigned to, or assigned by, the International Civil Aviation Organization. QOA to QQZ for Maritime Mobile. QRA to QUZ assigned to the ITU, radio communication sector. Okay. Now, QNA to QNZ overlap with ICAO. Okay. They have developed a set of QN signals for message handling in this range, which can create a little bit of confusion. So here are all of your Q codes. If it's sent with a question mark, it is asking you specific questions, and if you just say QAB, then you can send what is in these places like here. See, they go down for quite a ways here till we get down to, okay, the Q and Y. What is the present weather and the intensity at? Okay, useful for weather, stuff like that. Now, these are for the radio stuff, and you will note that the radio stuff, QR, QS, and QT are used by ham operators, like QSY. Should I change transmission to another frequency? And QSY here, you can put a frequency, and you will hear people say on the air, QSY 80 meters. Means he's changing to 80 meters. Okay, and some of these are network-oriented. QTH, what is your position? And my position is, and so on. True track, true course, and so on. QTR, and QTR is what is the correct time. The correct time is in hours. Note that QRT is also in here. And it means to stop transmitting. QRT, shall I stop sending? QRT here, stop sending. Okay. And they go on down for quite a ways till you get down to the end. The ones beyond QUZ are not assigned. Now, in amateur radio, there is a different set for QN that are used only on amateur radio telegraphy networks. So let's look at the QN signals that are used by ham radio operators for net control for telegraph nets. All of these start with N, and they are very amateur radio related. Okay, and so there's QNA through QNZ. So there's 26 of these. Okay, some are used a lot more than others. This is from the ARRL, and this are the instructions for radio telegrams, okay? And it tells you how to do the preamble, the address, the text, how the signature works, whether you do it in CW, RIDI, Packet, or Amtor. I haven't heard Amtor used in years, or phone. Okay, precedence, what these different things means. And then they have these ARRL QN signals for CW net use. These were put together by the league. Okay, and these are used for net control operations. So this one right here about QNH, asking for the barometric pressure setting, okay, QNH here, your net frequency is high. Okay, so you can see where you could get some confusion. Okay, here are international Q signals that it lists that are used, and then a bunch of other abbreviations that are used. By the way, if you have a line over it like this, a line over it, it means that the two letters are sent as one. Da-da-da-da. Not da-da-da-da, but da-da-da-da. Okay, or BT da-da-da-da-da. HH is 8 dits. Error in sending IMI. Da-da-da-da-did-it is also the question mark symbol. Okay? So there you have it. This interesting piece of information that I got from a ham here from Iron Transfer, MCB Iron Transfer. And I only printed the first page, so there are more pages. But this right here shows QNH, which is an international symbol that if used in ham radio would mean something entirely different. Just because ham radio has some specially developed QN codes for handling traffic over traffic networks. Traffic meaning messages over message networks, okay? This is where the relay in American Radio Relay League comes from. Back in the early days, the days of Hiram Percy Maxim, hams used spark gap, and a lucky ham would have a range of about 200 miles. And so they would put radio relay stations. They had a regular way of doing this. All hams all over the U.S., and they could transfer a message from coast to coast in 20 or 30 minutes. Remember, it had to be sent, received, resent, received, resent, received, till it got all the way where it was going. And the whole system was called the National Traffic System. The National Traffic System exists to this day. Now, needless to say, it's not handling a lot of messages, and a lot of stuff has moved to Packet, Pactor, and so on. But the system still exists for hams to be able to relay messages coast to coast, from the Canadian border to the Mexican border and beyond. Okay? But this is an example of how things in radio can get confused. I am both a pilot and a ham radio operator. And QNH means one thing when I'm in the air and another on the ground. So just a little bit of interesting background and history there. If you would like to help support this channel financially, you certainly may do so by going to dcasler.com/support and picking a way that works for you. I'm kind of pushing Patreon right now because Patreon is easy to deal with, and things work out easily. So, and there you go. Please be sure to subscribe and click like. And until we next meet, 73.